Welcome into another edition of Inside the AF1, a weekly show, Rebound Off the Net. I'm your host, Joshua Cox. We got arena football kicked off last week, and this week we have a full slate of games. We will get into those games later on in the show, give you our picks for those contests. But first off, we are joined by 2024 Arena Bowl champion and longtime arena quarterback and journeyman, Danny Southwick. Danny, appreciate your time tonight, man, coming on.
What's up, Joshua? Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you, man. Danny, if I counted correctly, you've played for 25 teams over your professional career and 5 over your college career, so 30 teams total. Not going to ask you, not going to have you do it, but would you be able to name all those teams that you played for if I were to ask you?
I think so. Yeah, it would be a boring podcast, but I think I could probably some of them for like a day, right? I flew in, hey, we need somebody, got you in, out, but yeah, I think I could probably name them. I hope so.
When you started out, could you ever imagine to have played for that many teams?
No, I had no idea what arena football was like, and I think when I got in, it's always been like this, right? It's a great league. The indoor games, great set of leagues now. I prefer the arena style games, but the nature of it is there's always been lots of turnover, and especially recently, unfortunately. So I didn't foresee all the teams I would end up on, but it's made for an eventful career and seeing lots of places. So it's been fun.
Absolutely. We'll get to the arena game, but let's talk about the beginnings for you first. You grew up in Utah. What was it like growing up in Utah, and what was your early beginnings like as you playing football and falling in love with the game there?
So I actually, until high school, for the most part, I was in Los Angeles. Okay. And then I moved, I guess, somewhere in junior high, I moved to Utah. My uncle, who's like a brother, actually both my uncles were both like brothers. One's 4 years older than, 3.5 years older than me. The other's 7.5, 8 years older than me. And they were both all-state quarterbacks and recruited and, multi-sport athletes or whatever at the school that I ended up going to in Utah. And I wasn't really, into real serious football. But when I got to Utah, I kind of like, when your older brothers are doing it, you're like, okay, I got to try to do something with this. And I became very serious about it, fell in love with the game. In high school, I had a great high school coach, Chad Van Orden, a legend in the Utah high school circuit. And because I was in a great program, I went to the same program, like I said, that they went to. I had a lot of the, similar results and got scholarship offers and all that. And I didn't realize it then how much I benefited from the program. I thought I was just a traveling all-state 300-yard per game, blah, blah, blah quarterback. It turns out that every quarterback that went to Tempe High School was that. But it led to a lot of opportunities for me and certainly led me falling in love with the game.
Absolutely. What was your journey like to becoming a quarterback? How did that position come on your radar?
I mean, that's always so. Having family from Provo, Utah, watching BYU, watching Ty Detmer growing up. I was a little later, but still quarter. I know some people call Miami quarterback U. In Utah, they call BYU QBU. So you have, oh my gosh, going back, lots of guys. Gifford Nielsen before him. Vince? Oh, I played for the Bengals. Old school. Anyway, and then is it Carter? I want to say Vince Carter, but that's the basketball player. Maybe it is. Anyway, and then Jim McMahon, Steve Young, Ty Detmer, Steve Sarkisian, so many good, John Beck, so many good players have come through BYU. And growing up, I loved watching Ty Detmer, and then Steve Young was with the 49ers, and I cheered for the 49ers and Joe Montana. So for me, it was all, that was it. And then based on my athleticism as an adult, thank goodness that was it, because there's probably 2 things I could have ever done, be a kicker or be a quarterback. And that, I wasn't going to be a lineman. I wasn't going to be a receiver for sure. But I thankfully I've been able to throw the ball a little bit and be smart enough to know where to throw the ball most of the time.
Yeah, you were originally going to go to BYU out of high school. You ended up going on a Mormon mission for a couple of years, then ended up going to a few other programs. Tell us a little about your college journey a little bit and how you ended up at the places you did.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take too much the listeners' time on this because it's a long story, but in high school I had to work real hard to get my situation, like to get where I was, and then when I got to college, um, the coaches kind of overlooked a lot of the hard work, I think, and they said, "Hey, you're coming here because you're so talented." So there's schools, I won't name it, but several schools. Hey, you're definitely going to start here. Some of you are going to start here as a freshman, and these are like big time D1 schools, Power 5, whatever, Power 4 now, and so I started getting this idea that I was like this really talented, like naturally gifted person, which of course wasn't true, right? I followed in my uncle's footsteps on a great program, and then I get to college, and rather than just having it handed to me, like I think and it wasn't handed to me in high school, but for whatever reason, I thought I've arrived. It's supposed to be handed to me in college, and I just left too soon. It wasn't a story where I was ever told, "Hey, get out of here. You're not going to play." You know, at least at the big schools, right? I mean, so, but I would leave. Like, I mean, I left before I stepped foot on campus at BYU. Went to Oregon State, left there 3 months later. Went to it's now Utah Tech, but then it was Dixie State College. It was a junior college. But then was there for a couple of years. Went to University of Utah. Was third string and then second string, and then after the season, I was like, I'm out because I didn't know what was going to start. Then I bounced around, and then I ended up at Occidental College, this little rinky. Well, they don't have a football program anymore, so nobody can be upset. There are rinky dink. There are a lot of good athletes come through Occidental, and actually some pretty decent quarterbacks came through there. Great coach Dale Weedoff, but they weren't Penn State, they weren't USC or other schools that like I had been talking to in high school, right? But I think I was deeply impatient, and then somewhere around my senior year, I started like looking around, being like, how did I fall so far from grace? I had all these opportunities. It was supposed to be, the next big thing at wherever, but I started realizing that, that probably had to look within, and I kind of started to try to figure myself out, and decided my senior year of college, even though I was the backup at Occidental, now the starter, at the time, what are the odds? The starter ended up getting a shot with the Detroit Lions. I ended up getting a shot with the Oakland Raiders. So we had two quarterbacks in a Division III roster that ended up signing an NFL contract. I don't know if that's ever happened. But I'm still the backup, right? And I decided I'm gonna try to, play pro ball, and sort of fell in love with psychology. I know before we got on the show, we were talking about how I'm now a psychology professor at BYU, visiting faculty professor at BYU. I became, and I started figuring out my own psychology, and then I went and played in the Deuce Arena 2, which a lot of the listeners don't know. It was like, wish we had something like that today, but it was great. I played for the Louisville Fire. From there, I ended up getting almost like a miracle, a short, at least signed off-season roster with the Oakland Raiders, and then, now I'm in my pro career. But my college career was kind of all over the place, and learned a lot of lessons that kind of paved the way for me, where I wasn't as persistent in college, being maybe like overly persistent as a pro.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that Oakland Raiders experience like? Who was the coach at that time, and kind of how did that come to be for you? How did you get that shot?
Yeah. So I did all right with the Louisville Fire, and my goal was to get to Arena 1, which was, a great deal back then. I mean, Arena 1 was, it's Arena ball's still great. We'd love to get it back there, right? But you said you fell in love with the game 2000. And so I'm trying to get in that Arena League folds that year, 2008. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up working out at this place called Athletes Performance in Los Angeles, which was during off-season training. And a guy there who was gearing for the NFL Combine was named Austin Collie. And you might remember he played Colts for a few years and some other teams. And he said, Danny, I don't have anybody to throw for me at my pro day. Will you throw for me? And I said, sure. I wasn't thinking about anything like up that level or whatever, but I've been working really hard. I remember I was backed up at Occidental, but now I've fully dedicated working with the quarterback coach, doing everything. And I went out to the pro day and kind of didn't miss. And the people in the middle of the pro day were like, they come in the field like, hey, like who are you? Like, I thought they were gonna kick me off because I wasn't supposed to be there. And I was like, I'm Danny Southwick, and of course they had no idea. Like, what, But they let me continue, and by the time I come off, there was 5 or 6 NFL teams. I got a couple of workouts after that, and I ended up signing for not a long stint with the Oakland Raiders, at least not a long stint on as a player. That's how it happened. Then I got there, and the hope was, the Oakland. I mean, within any organization, maybe especially within the Raiders, that I think there were some people that really wanted me there. The scout that saw me, his name is George Karras. He's since passed away. I think he really wanted me there. There were some others that probably thought there were better options, and I can't blame them. Backup from Occidental. Who is this guy? Louisville Fire quarterback. Who are they? So they end up cutting me right before camp in 2009. But Al Davis says, why don't you stay and let's see what happens. And so they end up paying me, which has like questionable legality. I'm not going to be in trouble with the Raiders, but it's been a long time ago, so it's past the statute or whatever. Anyway, so some people said it's like stashed players or whatever, but I ended up not. It's only a stashed player if you bring the guy back on the roster, which they never did. So I guess they were probably just fine. So I ended up working as like a quarterback assistant. I would throw with the team and run lots of drills for a couple of years. Ultimately, like I kept on hoping I'd get on the roster. One reason why I never got a shot with the Raiders, you know who Matt Nagy is?
Yeah.
Okay. So Matt Nagy's doing the same doggone thing and he had a lot further in his career. He was a great arena quarterback. I was still a pup. But we were doing the same thing. So he was with the Eagles and I'm with the Raiders, and neither of us are on the roster. And the Eagles' third stringer gets hurt, and they sign Matt Nagy. And the NFL comes out and they say, hey, Matt Nagy was just a QB assistant. What's the deal? You can't do that. Eagles get fined $100,000. So Matt Nagy gets off the roster. He's no longer on the pro team. 2 months later, the Raiders have like a couple injuries. I would be the next guy in. They're like, hey, Danny, sorry, like they got fined $100,000. We're not going to do that. So dang it, Matt Nagy. Anyway, but it worked out good for him. He ended up being a coach, and now he's doing awesome. Where is he now? Is he is he back with the Chiefs?
I do. I'm not sure. I know the name. I know the name. I picture him. I don't know where he's at now, though. I'd have to think about it.
He was a quarterback for either Grand Rapids Rampage or Columbus Destroyers. I can't remember, but he almost won the Arena Bowl, and he lost my buddy Mark Breed in the Arena Bowl. And then he goes into coaching after that kind of debacle of the Eagles that I was just describing. And then he ends up with he's been the head coach of the Bears for a little bit. I think he's back with the Eagles now as the OC. I mean, not the Eagles, with the Chiefs as the OC right now. Anyway, I don't know, Matt, but I just know that's how our arena paths crossed. And anyway, a little overlap. So anyway, that's how I ended up with the Raiders. And then that didn't pan out. So after that, then I'm like, okay, I still want. My hope initially was I want to play arena ball. I'm sorry, I want to get back in the NFL. So I ended up signing with some teams in the hopes of that. But then I just kept on wanting to play arena football because if I can't be in the NFL, what's the next best thing? And for me, I love the indoor game. I'm a competition junkie. I thought like, why would you play with 30 teams and get beat down? And I've been on a lot of bad teams. And what are you like? Are you weird? Like what's it? Yeah, yes, I'm weird. But I love the struggle, and I love that chance of fighting to get better. It's what I'm passionate about. It's what I study as a psychologist, as a researcher. So, that's kind of me.
Absolutely. Yeah, you talked about playing for all those teams last year. Finally, in Billings, you were able to win a championship. What did that mean for you? What was that season like for you?
It was great. So Coach Walker is great coach. He and I go way back. So I was on the SaberCats, and he was the defensive coordinator in 2012 there. He runs kind of a Darren Arvett style disciplinarian kind of approach with his own thing too. And I love Coach Walker. I love how he did it. And then I had a great relationship with Coach Bonner, who couldn't respect the guy more than Coach Bonner, and he knows so much of the game. I was initially planning on playing more, right? I mean, I get there as another rookie. I don't know who Isaac Parker is. I kind of came in late in camp, like this year too. Like I'm not even able to be anywhere yet, but I figured, I was a rookie there. I'll probably end up playing at some point. Usually what happens in arena ball every year, but Isaac's a special dude, and we became fast friends. We were roommates, and one of my very best friends in arena football ever, and we just had a real supportive relationship, and it was just fun to see. It was fun to see all that pay off. Isaac works so hard. He was really the leader of that team. Coach Bonner was an incredible mentor to so many people. Coach Walker really guided the ship. And I don't know how he did, because last year was there was lots of chaos. I mean, there's a reason we're AF1 right now, right? There was lots of chaos there, and Walker took that head on. Didn't let the team get distracted by it. Didn't matter what was going on. So I learned a lot from just kind of being around it. Hopefully, I added some to the equation just as a much older guy in the room, but also with a helmet and pads on, and yeah, it was fun. It was just fun to see all that hard work pay off, and the Billings Outlaws. Nobody thought we would end up coming and winning the whole thing, so it was fun.
Absolutely. You played for a lot of legacy teams throughout your AFL career, San Jose SaberCats, Chicago Rush, Philly Soul, among others. Outside of last year and winning the championship, what was your favorite stop on the journey and maybe your greatest memory?
Yeah, so many great memories. So my favorite memory has got to be some at the time people said it was, and sorry, Coach Walker, but it's, it's coming. So probably people said it was like the biggest upset in arena history. So San Jose was, I think, 12, 13-0, something like this, hadn't lost in 2015. And they beat everyone by lots of points. And I was on LA Kiss, and we were 1-11. And I kind of just gotten traded there, I think, from Spokane or something like this. And I was like, I'm getting ready to get beat down by these guys. And I was like, well, I'm just going to do my best. And sure enough, Ray-Sean Kaiser, who was our middle guy on defense for the important position in arena football, and the other guys, and Josh Victorian, and so many guys. And then they kind of helped keep us in. And then on offense, we had Marco Sampson and Donovan Morgan, and our line kind of shored up. Tom Gilson was there, others, and we just and we pulled it out in OT, man. Last we walk off beat Eric Meyer, and it was kind of a walk-off win. I still don't know if he was in bounds, but the ref called it in bounds. I'm sure Walker said he was out of bounds, but after the last second, or it wasn't last second, it was overtime. We stopped on their first drive, and then it was 2nd and 10 or something, 3rd and 10 after the 25-yard line. And San Jose, they have these. They don't have the boards at the back, so you have to stay in bounds and or toe tap. And if he was in, it was about a millimeter. But yeah, that was crazy, man. That was fun. And the LA Kiss year was lots of fun. That was kind of my second year as a starter in the Arena League, and kind of like my arrival as an arena quarterback. And yeah, that's my second best memory. But I have a lot of great places, man. Tough to beat San Jose. Mm-hmm. Private planes flying places. I was spoiled early. I later learned that's not how all arena football goes. But Philly Soul, run by Dalzell, the Predators and the Storm, which are historic franchises. The Gladiators are great. I wish some of these teams would come back, but
yeah, absolutely.
A lot of great memories and a lot of great places. So the one team that used it, one legacy team I never played for was the Utah Blaze, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, that would have been crazy since you're from there. Yeah. So, yeah. One other big football thing I saw on your journey, you played in the Fan Control Football League, and you got to throw the ball to TO. What was that like?
Well, the Fan Control Football League is an interesting. I wonder what's going to happen with that. I don't know if they're ever going to come back or whatever. But I mean, it was like surreal, right? Like you're getting, hey, we need you to go do a warm up with TO. You haven't been around, so you're getting used to the plays and do all that stuff. And I mean, he's incredible. He's like, I think he's like 48 and just like in better shape than anyone on the field. And I quickly learned though fan control football was not my game. So that's why I ended up leaving that year. I went to play in the NAL back then. That was kind of like the top arena league at the time. And or at least when I say arena, I'm differentiating between indoor and arena, right? So like, yeah, those who know what I'm talking about. And NAL was that. Ironically, NAL is now like an indoor league, like they're by the rules. But anyway, whatever. So, I left, but it was funny because, and I played with the Columbus Lions that year that hurt my knee, but the quarterbacks that succeeded in that, some of them were like really good quarterbacks. Other guys would be like, oh, like I haven't played since high school, but I'm killing it out here. And it's in the fan control football, like you don't know what's going on. Like you get the play call, half the players don't know. Like it doesn't work. The fans are, and then the ball snap, and you've got everyone coming at you. And so the quarterbacks that do well in that are those like nifty little I can run around the field guys, and that's unfortunately not me, Joshua. I need a slam, and my plans were not working in that league. So, but it was fun. Fan control football was fun. It's a great marketing concept. I don't love the fan control part of it. That doesn't mean it's not a good for football or whatever. I just didn't like playing it as much. But I mean, the way they had it set up, all the teams in a central location playing, and we kind of played in this like studio area. I like the one location kind of model. I thought it was an interesting way to do indoor football.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit here. Off the field, you're Dr. Danny Southwick. You have a PhD in psychology from the University of Pennsylvania. You're a visiting professor at BYU. What drove you to the love for psychology, and how did this kind of intertwine with your football journey?
I think I talked about that a little bit, right? So like I failed. So I mean, I was describing myself as somebody that's pretty gritty high school player, right? I like worked so hard, did all things to kind of overcome. People didn't really think I was going to end up with all the opportunities I did. I get them, but then I kind of lost all my grit, meaning like I lost my tenacity, my passion, my perseverance, and failed. And I was trying to figure out what it was. It couldn't have been the 6 different schools I went to. I mean, come on. Like I got at some point it's time to look in the mirror. And so I started reading a lot. I was never a real big student, at least, I think yeah, I can't remember in high school, like I was like voted the least likely to be in class or something. It wasn't, but just to try to figure out my life, I started reading a lot. I read a lot of like self-help books initially. Some of those self-help books would talk about psychologists, and I started reading some psychology books, and that just kind of, and I was getting improving as a football player from this. Like I try to understand myself. Like, okay, how do you manage failure? How do you manage adversity? How do you think about success? These sorts of things. And I started like figuring that out, became a lot more resilient. And then eventually, like I started finding like I became interested in the kind of the science of it. And then another part of this is after the Raiders let me go, I told my wife, I said, okay, look, now I want to go play arena football and see if I can get a shot in the NFL. And she said, well, that's great, but why don't you get your graduate degree? So I got an MBA, and then now I'm becoming a much more like school-oriented. Finished my MBA. The day after I got done, I got an email from the University of Pennsylvania. I don't know how I ended up on their email list to this day. And they said, why don't they said apply to something called the Masters of Positive Psychology on a whim, like the day after my last class at UC Irvine, or at least my last class with my cohort. I applied, ended up getting in, which I never would have got in if I didn't have that business degree, Ended up getting in, and then I'm there. I'm like, this is the furthest I'll ever go. And then I meet Angela Duckworth there. And Angela Duckworth, I don't know if you know who she is, but a lot of people interested in psychology know who she is. She wrote the book Grit. And she works with like a lot of NFL teams, or she leads a lot of NFL teams, kind of beat a path to her door because a lot of NFL teams, like the Lions and others, kind of recognize. And I'm not saying anything that's like, I think there's a secret. They talk about it in every interview they have. How important grit is. And so these people, I mean, Pete Carroll has gone on record talking about this, that grit's really important for his teams. And she's been really influential. Anyway, I meet her at Penn. She kind of said, well, have you ever thought about doing a PhD? And I thought, well, I mean, me? Like not Penn, like no way. She's like, well, yeah, maybe consider being my graduate student. I mean, you have to score well on the GRE, and it's very hard to get it. It's like not as hard as getting into the NFL, but getting into Penn, like in that program, working for her is like a 1 in something 100 shot. People that are already pretty qualified to even think about applying. And but anyway, yeah, I mean, like she and I kind of had a good research relationship, and she was a great mentor, and so I ended up being her PhD student at Penn for 5 years, and before COVID and kind of during COVID, then graduated, and when I finished that, then I applied on the job market and got this visiting faculty position at BYU. For a couple of years. So.
Yeah, crazy story there. You talked about a little bit. I've read a little bit about your work in football and psychology has caused you to think deeply about the word talent. You was talking about grit earlier, but also talent. What does talent mean to you now?
I mean, so this is something I study and think about all the time, right? And one reason I thought about it a lot is, when I get to the Raiders, the scout who saw me at that pro day I was describing says, I think he was trying to boost my confidence. He says, Danny, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've seen the best. I've seen the worst. He goes, trust me, Danny, you've got the talent by the NFL. Talented. Show up to the Raiders. I won't say what coach, but I sit there, first meeting ever, and he goes, Danny, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've seen the best. I've seen the worst. He's like, trust me, you don't have the talent to play in the NFL. And he said, there's two experts that totally disagree. Mm-hmm. And they both kind of spoke with a certainty as if they were like scientists who had seen my DNA and kind of knew. And I just thought, wow, this is wild. We're talking about talent as if we know what it is. If we can spot it, we can see it. But this seems so subjective. And what even is this thing? And so now I've studied that for about like 10 years. And some people think of talent pretty basically like, hey, it's like a skill that you have. I'm down with that. I'm going to call it a skill. Great. We can all develop skills. But from a scientific perspective, if you are saying that something exists, you better be able to measure it. But a lot of times we just say, well, why are they successful? Well, it must have been because they're talent. But we never identify, we can rarely identify what that is ahead of time or define it with much precision or measure. And even studies that try to measure talent in advance aren't very predictive of success. What's much more predictive of success is what's something called deliberate practice. So the extent to which you are doing thousands of hours of practice, but in a really focused environment where you are getting like great coaching, paying attention to feedback, and that there's lots of studies showing that leads to success. But yet everyone's kind of intuition is the reason why one person's doing better than another person or learning faster or whatever is because of this innate talent and genes that we never can identify. And now we've mapped the whole human genome. We can't explain very much of why someone's successful in anything. Even looking at interactions and combinations of genes, we measure people's IQ. That predicts some things, but when you look at the top levels of performance in many environments, it doesn't predict anything. And so, like, what the heck is talent? I need better answers for that if I'm going to buy into that idea. Do I think that that we're all born differently? Yeah, for sure. Some people start out better than others, and there are some things that might be less trainable. For example, I don't know if I could ever train to be as fast as Usain Bolt. Probably not, right? Or certainly couldn't train to be as tall as Shaquille O'Neal. But when it comes down to skills, how I can read the defense, how much accuracy I can build a football with, how much of what my technique can be like, those sorts of things. That's mastery. That's expertise. That's, in my experience, that's not talent. And so many people mistake it as talent. Oh, Brady, he has such a talent for seeing the field. Well, yeah, no kidding. He spent thousands and thousands of hours watching film systematically with Bill Belichick. Of course he can see the field. And there are patterns among experts that they develop through that process. They develop like world-class memories. If you ask Tom Brady, in fact, I flew with Tom Brady one time, and he actually a few times, and he would talk about plays that happened last year with Wes Welker was his quarterback at the time, or his receiver, sorry, and he was like, Wes, remember that play? It was 2nd and 4 last year against the Ravens. I want you to run. Like, I couldn't tell my receivers, hey, remember the 2nd and 4 against the Arizona Rattlers? Like, I couldn't remember. Like, but he has this almost photographic memory. It seems like. Well, what is that? It turns out the same patterns. I'm research now. The same patterns emerge in chess. The same patterns emerge with like world-class venture capitalists. We found the people that are the best in the world. They have such a sophisticated framework of the way they see things that it seems like they have this incredible memory. But the truth is, they've just spent a ridiculous amount of time focusing on their craft. And when you take people and put them in a different environment, like a world-class chess player that can beat 10 people blindfolded, and then you say, hey, go remember this something else. Well, they can't remember what they ordered for dinner last night. So it's not like they have this incredible memory. It's that they have this systematic way of thinking that they've built up through tons of practice. So sorry, don't ever ask a PhD, about their dissertation. It will take all night to talk to you. But what do I think about talent? I'm not sure that it exists the way that we think about it. That's what I think about talent.
Yeah, I'm as I told you off air, my undergrad is in psychology, so I need to come audit one of your classes. That'd be a lot of fun.
Come on out.
Last question for you, man. We'll start laying on the football field. It's been a crazy journeyman career. No one no one but you knows that word probably. When it comes to the end, how do you want your football career to be remembered?
I gave it everything I got. Played as long as I could, as hard as I could. That's what I want.
Sounds great. Appreciate your time tonight, man. It's great to talk to you. I could talk psychology and arena football all night with you, but I appreciate your time. I know it kept you a little longer than I thought, but appreciate your time, man.
Not because of you. That's because of me. But Joshua, it's fun, man. I love arena fans. You've been watching this game since 2002. We need more people like you. We need to keep growing the game. I appreciate what you're doing.
Absolutely, man. See you soon. We'll talk soon.
Have a good day, Joshua. Bye.
All right. Big thank you to Danny Southwick for coming on tonight. We're going to finish the show talking about our picks for a little bit about last week's game and our picks for next week. Last week, Southwest Kansas and Nashville played. Southwest Kansas winning 40-26. A little off on that pick. Had Nashville winning the game. 7 turnovers for the Nashville Cats. The game was a little bit sloppy, even for Southwest Kansas. A lot of drop passes there in the first half. If they would have caught some of those balls, probably would have even been a bigger blowout or a bigger score differential than 40-26. So sloppy game all around. The Evergreen broadcast was really good last week, and I think they're going to be great partners for Arena Football this season. So I'm looking forward to some more games this weekend. A little off on that pick last week, but we'll be back and better this week. The Cats led in the fourth quarter, and 2 straight pick sixes, and the Southwest Kansas Storm came out victorious. But I don't think Nashville's that bad. I think Southwest Kansas is probably better than I projected them to be. But I think Nashville will be back. They got late notice on that game. They had to travel. So their quarterback play will have to get better. 5 interceptions. I don't think it can get any worse. So looking forward to seeing both of those teams and how they improve week to week. We won't get Nashville this week, but we'll see Southwest Kansas again. So let's finish up on this week's games. I got Solana beating Corpus 45-30. Solana plus 2.5 and Solana money line. That is the play, a guaranteed play of the week. It will be right this week. Didn't get it right last week, but we'll be right this week. Other 2 games, Billings beats Oregon 49-28. Take Billings minus 16.5. I think they cover that. And then the end play, we have Southwest Kansas. Southwest Kansas will beat Washington 52-24. Southwest Kansas minus 16.5. Again, big thank you to Danny Southwick for coming on tonight. Remember, guarantee play of the week, Solana beats Corpus by 2 scores. Solana plus 2.5. Solana money line. Look forward to seeing you all next week. Glad to be back this week. It's been a few weeks, and glad to be back with you all. Always remember, until next time, catch the rebound off the net.